Sorry, I pressed the wrong button, so I'm gonna have to do this in a couple videos. I wanted to show you the wires that I tapped. Now, these have the LED lights because it's a Badlands, so this can vary from trim. And even if you're a Badlands, I don't want to say these are the right wires, but this is just what I did. Buy yourself a $20 multimeter, and what I do is I just go DC 20, so you're reading up to 20 volts on DC. And what I literally did is I got someone to help me in the driver's seat. I took the ground probe and I literally put it in one of the screw holes, which should be touching the frame, give you decent ground. And then, in fact, here we can do one right now. Well, I'll do it on the left side. I'll do the headlights so I don't have to have someone pressing something. And you're basically just going to get in here and take the positive probe and touch the individual lights until you get the one you're looking for. This middle one I believe was the turn signal. So if you look at how I've got it, the connector part that clamps is right there. That should be the turn signal. Yes, because that goes to the green wire. So that bottom middle one, if we call this the top, that bottom middle one was the right turn signal. And then this was the reverse lights on mine. Double check this, even if you have a Badlands, double check this. It's not hard. And the tool is so cheap. You can probably get one for less than 20 bucks on Amazon. And these are the clamps I recommend using because you can see you've only got a couple inches of wire loom there. Oops, sorry. You've only got a couple inches of wire loom there. And I even had to take my razor blade and cut it back a few inches. Because when I went to Lowe's, here, let me just, sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit. I wanted to show you how I take these off. So if you're trying to get this off and it's just sitting there, the first thing you can do is put your hand, darn it, sorry, doing this one-handed. If you're turning the Phillips head part and it's not doing anything, you got to hold the outer part. Sometimes that'll work. If it's still not doing it, take your fork or this tool. You got to put a little tension on it is basically the problem. And then it'll unscrew. And it only has to unscrew out a little bit. So now you're out enough. And then you can pull it out. That's why I like this tool. And it just pops out. Also, one thing that I would recommend, buy yourself, it's just a couple dollars. Harbor Freight, Amazon, whatever. These are plastic trim tools so you don't scrape with metal. I was actually using these on some of them. Works fine. You just need some kind of thing like that. So again, we're going to pull out on the bottom and then kind of pull out and down, out and down. Don't have to pull hard. So basically you're going to push in and pull up. I don't think I can do this one-handed. Hold on. All right, so we pushed in and we pulled up. And here, okay, so these are the wire taps you're gonna get at Lowe's. I don't like them. You see how much wider they are? And I feel like these lock better. All right, so again, you don't have a lot of wire loom. You're gonna wires. I had to cut the loom back a few inches. So red, one of these is the brake signal that goes back up. That's gonna be this one right here. Just gotta do a little tracing. Okay, so this first one, so if this is the top, this first one, so that's this one right there. Well, sorry, let me get something to point with. And again, this is just on my car, double check on yours. This is the soldering tool that I use. I think I've had it for 20 years. I need to replace the tip. But here, let me pull this thing out. I don't even know what this is for. Okay, so if this is the top where that clamp is, our brake signal was this one. And let's see here. We've got our yellow, which I believe is the turn signal, is going to go to the bottom middle. Sorry, I know that's not zoomed in very well. Which is the purple and orange. It's this wire right here, right there. Your brake signal was this blue and green one. And then it looks like we're doing the blue and white one is the headlamp, which is the top middle. So, sorry. So it was headlamp, turn signal, or wait, brake, no, headlamp, top middle, brake signal, top left, if you're looking at it like this is the top. And then the bottom middle was the headlights. So headlights is the orange and gray type wire. Come on, focus. Well, you can see. The brake signal is this blue and, blue with a small green. And then the turn signal was the top middle, which is blue and grayish. But, so that was what the turn signal, brake signal, headlamps. Bottom middle, headlamps. Top left, brake signal to your brake controller. Top middle was the turn signal. I was running out of different color wire. Hold on, wait, I think I said that wrong. So yellow wire is turn signal, which is the bottom middle. We're going to just do this one more time. Bottom middle, thin orange with gray, it looks like. Brake signal is top left. It's blue with a small green line. And then your headlight should be the top middle, which is the blue with the small gray wire. So again, going back to the other side, we had our, let's see, green. Oh, I taped it together. Let me, And here's where I ran the wires. Whoops, just basically I went up over this top plastic piece to hopefully, so it's not pulling on these splices. I went up behind and I just kind of followed back and just tucked it back there. And it comes down here and I kind of zip tied it up, ran it through the hitch. And then, let's see if you can, here, let me get under here. And there's your 7-pin harness. And I always make it, oh, and here's the ground for the 7-pin. I just ran it off that. See, I've got all these soldered. Everything was like a foot too long, but I'd rather it be too long than too short. And I just zip tied it up here. So we've got one going through this hole, and there's another hole back here. I zip tied them together, and then I zip tied one around here. And I believe I ran another zip tie up there as well. Here you can see the, whoops, sorry. So that holds the extra foot of wire together. I just kind of made like a loop. Zip tied that loop together and then zip tied it to the frame here. Here's some of the wires coming in from the left driver's side taillight. And then here's the wires coming in from the passenger side taillight. Here's the hitch that I bought. Basically, it's just these 4 bolts. You do want the good gold grade 8 hardware. Also, just a quick thing. I always do these little stabilizers so it doesn't make much noise bounce around. And then you always want a lock. I do a keyed lock, just a little extra security, but it wouldn't stop someone who's determined and has the tools. This is a 5 1/4 inch drop receiver. It was actually too low. My trailer, your trailer should be level when it's hooked up, when you're on level ground. This was too low, it was leaning forward. Problem why I had to do that was the spare tire. Let me see if I can, hold on, let me put these back on. Okay, so I just wanted to put those connectors on so they don't actually get squished or something. So the problem is that your spare, and I don't have the Sasquatch package, so these are 33s. If you have the Sasquatch package, it's going to be an inch worse. Your ball hitch for your trailer tongue is going to go on here, and it has that little latch that comes up to lock. On the 3 1/4, it was actually hitting. Now what I'm going to do when I go to my aunt's house where I store my trailer is I'm actually going to trim about 3/4 of an inch off that latch because it's not quite to a part that matters. And then I'll be able to change this to a 3 1/4 inch. I'm worried that it's still going to be at a little bit of a down angle, but it'll be better. But basically, if you have a Badlands non-Sasquatch, more than likely you're gonna need a 3 1/4 is the best you're gonna get, unless you can figure out something with your spare or you have a different hitch than mine. Mine is the old school type. They have a lot of cool new different types now, so you very likely might have a different type hitch. But yeah, so that's how I did my 7-pin, and that's where I got the wires. Basically the only wire that I had to run all the way back was the brake signal from the brake controller, and then to get the brake light signal up to the brake controller, those are those two here. And then the power wire, which I ran off of fuse 63, which should make it go through the aux box. So there's fuse 63. I just put the extra fuse in here since it has these little walls. Once you put the top on, it'll stay there, so I have an extra fuse. And as you can see, I just did add a fuse. Now remember, these are micro fuses. Most newer cars use these smaller micro fuses, not the bigger ones. In fact, it looks like every one of these are micro fuses, or it's mini, one or the other, micro or mini. And what I did is, you can see the wire there. I had a lot of white wire, so I switched to white for this one, and I just wound it, down under. You can kind of see it. Hold on, take my headlamp off. Down there I kind of tucked it. I like to tuck it and zip tie to stuff when I can, and I basically just followed those hard lines, which I believe are for the brakes. Let's see if I can show you. We're almost done. And I just basically followed these hard lines, because if those aren't getting hit, then this should work for this. And I just zip tied it every time there was like one of those connectors. There, sorry. So zip tie there, because there's kind of one of these plastic connectors, otherwise they'll just slide back and forth. And I just went on top of the frame, just following them. There you can see it's still behind by those hardwired lines. And I had to go up and over the axle, because you don't want it hanging near the axle where if it's going to articulate, it's going to pull on the wire. And then just ran it back under. Let's see. So there it is. It came up and over, and I don't really know where it is. So I think I ran it around this mount, and then back into here. Now, the last thing I want to touch on is, you don't want to just zip tie the 7-pin. I did this because I was in a hurry to make a trip. This mount came with it. There's some holes that you can use. It's not going to work for mine. Most of these... sorry, trying to put my headlamp on. Most of these universal 7-pins, they come with the same stuff. They're going to come with this mount. This is what I use on my baby Bronco, but what I had to do is, there was a hole that was like this, and so if I tried to use this, it would end up like this. I want it like this. So basically, I just took a piece of aluminum and bent a 90-degree angle. It was like 4 inches by 6 inches, and I just bent the last inch down at a 90-degree angle. The way you can do this is, say you've got a piece of metal like this, get yourself a $20 vise. Say that this is straight and it doesn't have that 90 degree yet. You're going to stick it straight up in the vise, and then you're going to take a wrench or a crescent wrench. Here, we'll use this. It's going to be hard to do one-handed. But you're basically going to put on the side that you want to bend, you're going to put the wrench over it like this, down to the length you want. Like, say that I want the bend right there, only like a half an inch. You're going to put it there, bottom's in the vise, and you can just bend it. And just take your time, do it a little bit at a time, and you can get some really good, nice bends out of it. And it's very easy. You don't have to have some kind of special plate bending machine or whatever. You can do a lot of stuff with regular hand tools. And I just wired all this stuff and just figured it out myself. I mean, luckily I've done it one other time on my baby Bronco, but that's it. So you don't need any special harnesses or anything like that. Recommend getting a solder kit and using heat shrink. I wouldn't recommend using the butts. You just need a socket set, some screwdrivers. Like I said, even with this, you can use a fork and just cut off or bend back one of the tines. I did that for years until I saw this at Home Depot. And then you need your 7-pin kit from Amazon. It's like 20 bucks. And then you need your brake controller, which should come with its own pigtail that you'll wire up. But even if you buy a used one, you can buy pigtails for pretty much any of them on Amazon for like 20 bucks or less. So it was $54.99 plus tax for the hitch back there, which immediately went on sale after I bought it, down to $45. This at Home Depot was $50, but the 3/4 inch drop was $30. That might be with my military discount though. I initially bought this one at Harbor Freight for like 10 bucks, but I measured wrong. I was measuring from the bottom instead of the top of the ball. And then the stabilizers on Amazon, I think for 10 bucks. Same with the keyed locks. It was like 10 bucks. Harness was like 17 for my brake controller since I had to leave the other one on my old car. You can get this box of wire for 10 bucks on Amazon, but it's 16 gauge. I'd recommend going a little smaller, but do what your stuff recommends. And I would always go at least one size bigger on the power wire to be safe, especially on the 7-pin that has to go all the way back here. And then this box of heat shrink was like 10 bucks on Amazon. This was, I think, $7.99 at Harbor Freight. I had some mini fuses laying around and these added fuses, but you can buy them on Amazon for a couple bucks. And then that's basically it. Some needle nose. So it took me, I think, 4 hours one day, and that included putting the hitch on, and then 6 hours another day, but that's because I had to figure stuff out. So again, just verify that you're doing the right connections when you're tapping the wires, but otherwise that's how I did this, and it worked on a trip that I had no time to prepare for, and it was still fine. Okay, this has been super long, so